Hello there, everybody. Welcome back, and for the first time in 2 weeks, happy Skews Day to you. It's October 12th, 2021. I'm Trae Crowder, and that's Mark Agee. Look at us back together again. What's up, Mark?
Yeah, we were. I was gone 2 weeks. I had to work 2 weeks ago, and then last week Trae was shooting some big fancy Hollywood shit, so he wasn't available. And we were going. My wife and I went to the Alanis Morissette concert at the Hollywood Bowl, so it was nice to have a night off for that. Fire show, and it's great to be back on another banner day for your Las Vegas Raiders, Trae.
Yeah. Things are always coming up Raiders, man. It's been great being a Raiders fan for the past 20 years. Just a continuous parade of success and,
Ignominy.
lauding. Yeah, obviously. No, yeah, as everybody I'm sure is aware, the head coach of the Raiders, Jon Gruden, had a treasure trove of past emails came to light wherein he really hit for the bigotry cycle, just really left no papaw stone unturned. One of the best things I saw about it was an Onion, I think, headline that said Jon Gruden apologizes to the Jews for not offending them in his emails, because that's pretty much the only group he did not offend or use slurs in reference to or what have
Yeah,
you. So,
and
that's fun.
I know a lot of the viewers zone out when we talk about sports. This is not really about sports. This is about workplace power issues, bigotry, and politics, which they're basically three big things we talk about here. And if you need a political angle to connect it, Jon Gruden's emails were to Bruce Allen, who is the brother of George Allen, who you might remember was a Virginia politician who was governor and U.S. senator, lost, ran for Senate again in that election campaign. He called an Indian dude macaca twice on camera, which is a term for a monkey. And he tried to play it down. He lost that race by 8,000 votes. It's fair to say it swung it. And he tried to downplay it by saying that he was a term of endearment that he and his friends used for people they didn't know. It was like saying dude or homie or something, which is like transparently not true. But it reminded me of what all these dudes say, because it was a Gruden say when the first batch of emails came out, when he made fun of a black guy for having big lips. He said he had lips like Michelin tires. And look, anybody who's familiar with old dude racism knows what he's going for there. But he tried to say that he said people who lie have rubber lips, which is a thing. He spent hours and hours talking on TV, and no one else ever heard that expression before. So if you're not familiar with the emails, he called Roger Goodell a gay slur that starts with the letter F. Also called him a pussy. He said everyone who kneeled should be run out of the league. He complained about women being hired to work in the NFL as officials and coaches.
He, yeah. He did a whole bunch of stuff. The one thing I'll also say about it, as soon as it came out, I was like, well, he gone, and he was gone like hours later, and deservedly so. But one thing that's kind of fun, if there's anything funny about the whole fucked up scenario, it's that all those emails were found as part of an investigation that was being done into the Washington football team and their ownership and Dan Snyder, into some very serious allegations about them, like taking cheerleaders on overseas trips and then taking their passports away for them and putting them on auction to these other rich dudes and shit, like possible human trafficking shit and a whole lot of really bad stuff. That's what they were investigating. And so far, the only thing to have happened is that the Raiders coach got fired or lost. So, leave it to the Raiders to take a loss as part of an investigation that ostensibly did not even involve them. But it won't surprise me at all if Dan Snyder, because he's an owner and writes the checks, never sees any real outcome or consequences from this at all.
We talk about workplace power stuff. Yes, dude, Gruden had to go absolutely, because he is coaching a team that has the first NFL player to ever come out of the closet, Carl Nassib, who's been really good this year, and and so you can't have him. You can't have him having power over this dude's career. It's not transparently not fair. But also from workplace power, Gruden's just an employee. And they found a fall guy to save Dan Snyder's ass, who doesn't even work for his own team. It's like, this is just rich. It's all rich dudes covering their ass all the way down. And it just it goes uphill to the point where it stops eventually. But the stat I saw was they've obtained 650,000 emails in the course of this investigation, and the only ones that got leaked were the ones from Jon Gruden. We didn't even see the replies to it from the Redskins, the Redskins, the football team side, because it's like, and those are the emails in which Gruden insulted the commissioner.
Yeah,
coincidence.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm fully with you on that. But again, we're just
from a real world side about what would bigotry actually cost people. The Ringer had a good article today talking about like how you guys might be better off football wise, because Gruden, if you look at his track record, will never play one black quarterback, and that was Sean King, who inherited when he took over the Bucs. He's hasn't had a black coordinator for 20 years, and this is in the league where 3 out of the 4 coordinators in the Super Bowl last year were black. He had one woman strength coach who he pushed out after a year. Like, it's like it's been costing talent. Like, you're robbing yourself by being a bigot, which is there's a lesson in this for if any bigots are watching.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely think it could end up working out, for the Raiders. I mean, it ain't like they've been setting the woods on fire, so whatever.
Yeah.
It's fine. Anyway, with us as always is producer Matt. This is Weekly Skews. First, and remind you, if you're vaccinated and want to see me live, you can go to wellreadcomedy.com for tickets. We will be at one of our favorite clubs in the country next weekend in our nation's capital, the DC Improv, October 21st to the 24th. Hope to see y'all there. Okay, as for the show tonight, we will be joined by senior legal correspondent Drew Morgan for a story out of Tennessee that sees my levels of disappointment in my home state reach heretofore unseen heights, at least until the next horrific story breaks, that is. What is it? Well, it involves Karens in charge and small children in jail, and is somehow even worse than it sounds. But before that, we will keep the mood light as we dive into everybody's favorite segment, the Daily Dumbass. Matt, graphic, please. Tonight's first DD, this anti-vax protester in Los Angeles on Saturday for thinking she could scream out some shit in front of the homeless people on Hollywood Boulevard and not get a response from them. Listen closely, everybody, to this clip. Matt, play it.
Yeah. Do you see all these homeless people around? Are they dead in the streets with COVID? Hell no. Why? Where are the biohazard bins for these masks?
Okay, in case you missed it, because it's sort of hard to hear, it's truly tremendous. This lady says, you see all these homeless people out here? Are they all dead in the streets from COVID? No. Why? And then presumably a homeless man yells out, because I'm vaccinated, you dumb fuck. Which is just wonderful.
Yeah, just because somebody doesn't have a house doesn't mean they're a fucking idiot.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
The context here, those of you who don't live in LA or haven't been here, like, Hollywood Boulevard's not a place people who live here go. It's exclusively homeless people and tourists, and that's how you know that lady's not from here, is she's down there annoying homeless people and tourists with her anti-vax bullshit. Wild times, man. It's like, I never get tired of seeing these people get owned, because like they're fucking their worldview is so myopic and stupid that like they just, when they're confronted with any basic reality, it's like just immediately crumble.
Yeah. All right. Well, our first honorable mention for Daily Dumbass is anybody who missed out on Amp Fest, the Florida right-wing Coachella event. That's right. If you're wondering what the hell did that look like, well, let's take a look at it. Matt, play the clip here.
I'm not gonna take it, no. I don't care who says to take it. Nobody my choices up to go before. Johnson, a dirty fighter. I'm not gonna take it, no. I don't care who says to take
it. Doesn't even rhyme. It doesn't even rhyme.
Also, they couldn't get Eric Clapton, Hell, I thought this was his whole beat now, right? Because that's the thing. It's like the things they have to convince themselves they're into, I feel like, where art is concerned, because their options are so limited, clearly, because the vast majority of artistics and creatives are not anti-vax lunatics. So next thing you know, you're dancing to some horseshit vaccine rap in a tent in fucking Florida or whatever, and pretending like it's a Kendrick Lamar show or something.
Yeah, with a keyboard beat from a cassette Blasio, he just pissed we turn the beat on and press it. And then go Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, and Pfizer. I ain't gonna take it. Yeah, no. It's like, what are we doing here, man? I don't know. It's like it just steals something to ruin it. I guess that's white people's log line, I guess.
Just the idea of a right-wing Coachella is kind of hilarious. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's not – how do you make that work, you know? Like, what is the right-wing version of Coachella? It's just like CPAC or whatever is what the actual thing is, right? Like, you can't go to a hidden music festival and have a good time while being what they are. Because they don't like good times. Good times also, not their thing, you know.
Also, you can go to music fest like the Woodstock '99 wasn't some left wing event. It was just Corn, a Limp Bizkit. Like you can just like these people rob themselves of so much by making their whole identity just I mean, there was I saw a guy at the Alanis Morissette concert with a "Fuck Joe Biden" shirt. He still let himself enjoy some decent tunes. You know, he wasn't like making himself listen to some more shit.
All right, so our next honorable mention is for Daily Dumbass is anybody who didn't get the vaccine, because now you don't have Kraken blood like the rest of us. I hope you're happy. That's right. We got little tentacle monsters in our bloodstream now from the vaccine, and you don't. So I hope you feel proud. There's a GOP lawmaker, a New Hampshire state representative, Ken Weiler, who shared some wild conspiracy theories about the coronavirus involving Satan, the Pope, and 5G, as well as tentacled creatures lurking in the vaccine. He said that if you look at the vaccine under the microscope, you can see little multi-armed demons in the vaccine floating around. I don't know what they're supposed to be doing once they get in there. I guess they're all little magnetos, which is how we get magnified or something like that. Or they're all little IT demons, maybe. And that's how the 5G aspect comes. I'm not really clear on how the details work, but yeah, we all got Krakens in us.
I like the idea of like the Pope, Satan, tentacle monsters from anime porn. Like all like teaming up in like a Suicide Squad like mission. Like we have nothing in common, but we're gonna do this to enslave humanity or something. Like it's like what a fucking Dirty Dozen odd couple cast of characters.
It's also funny because apparently it was full of anti-Catholic bigotry, which, as I understand it, that's pretty old school bigotry there, right? Like that used to be a whole thing in America, I guess, where Catholics were like it was like a big deal when JFK was elected because he was a Catholic president or some shit. But like a man still holding the fucking fuck Catholics line in 2021 is just, he's really kicking it old school. He is 79 though.
Yeah, I mean, have there been any other Catholic presidents between Biden and JFK? I don't know if there ever have, but it wasn't.
No idea.
I don't think it. Think it run through my mind real quick, and now I can't think of any. And the idea was that like because Catholics are all supposed to listen to the Pope. If you elect the JFK, then you basically be electing the Pope president, which was dumb because if you ever met a Catholic, none of them really listen to the Pope. Right. But the Klan was riftly anti-Catholic. I mean, this is basically when back before Irish and Italians were considered white. Right. So there's all sorts of paranoia about that kind of shit too. But yeah, I can't make it. It's like they're just like when they said they would take America back to the olden days, they're just like they're including like prejudices from like 1930, which rules.
Right. I know. It's like to some of these people, the list of people who are all right by them is literally just whoever is exactly the same thing that they are. Like it's not even just other white people or other Christians. You got to be the right type of white Christian specifically, or you also are a bag of shit, to say nothing of all the Muslims and immigrants and gays out there. That goes without saying. But even fucking Catholics, they need to get their shit together too. It's just like enhanced bigotry, you know?
Yeah. Also, I want some fucking tentacles.
Yeah, right. I know. That's what I'm saying. I want that.
We were dog sitting this week, and I had to walk 3 dogs. I could have used a couple extra hands. I could have extra arm, my dick, carrying groceries up. You know, sex probably be a lot more fun, more hands too. Come on.
Yeah, dude. And like you mentioned earlier, there's plenty of porn out there that proves that thesis. Producer Matt has pointed out tonight is the first Seattle Kraken hockey game. By the way, coincidence? Yeah, certainly, absolutely it is. But anyway, okay, let's see. What do we got next here? Next up, for dumbass, Bebop and Rocksteady for not putting a stop to such government waste. Play this clip, please.
Yeah.
Remember what happened in Arizona. 5.7 million spent on the Ninja Turtles who were going through all these ballots. And the net result was more votes for Biden, fewer votes for Trump.
What is it? Is he just like being purposefully condescending about them? Do you know what I mean? Like the cyber ninjas, like, is that what he's doing? Or is this just a genuine like gaffe or whatever you think?
I think it was just a brain fart. But what's funny is he's too old to have even been into the Ninja Turtles. So
way too old.
Maybe his grandsons love the Ninja Turtles, and that's what made him in his brain. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like Ninja Turtles is a better name for them. They don't know shit about cyber.
And it took them forever. Am I right? Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not really ninjas either, though. Just turtles.
I mean, at least they're passingly familiar with what ninjas are. These guys like can turn a computer on for the first time last week, I think. So if they've seen Ninja Turtles, they're more qualified to be Ninja Turtles than they are to conduct a forensic audit of an election. So, yeah.
All right. Next up, honorable mention here: Manchin and Cinema for thinking they can ever possibly negotiate with this shit.
Maria, we know that the Build Back Better agenda has become the Biden Build Back Broke agenda. And the American people have figured out that what they're trying to do is institutionalize socialism. They're trying to do a takeover of the country in one vote. They want government control of your kids. They want to look at your bank account for every transaction over $600. Anything that you do on Venmo and PayPal, they want a part of that transaction. They want government control of health care. They want to demoralize the military, close the churches, destroy your faith in the American system, and then here they're going to come with the socialist program to run your life from cradle to grave, daylight to dark.
Unbelievable.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Senator Marsha Blackburn from where else? Tennessee there. We've talked about her plenty of times before. A proto-Karen she is, just truly. Like the idea that person who interprets this legislation that way and feels that way about it, that you could, come to the table with a couple of line item adjustments or whatever, and she would be like, oh, okay, well, now I'm in. You know what I mean? There's nowhere to go from that.
Somebody was crunching the numbers about why America's falling apart, and basically, like in well-developed social democracies, like they spend about half their budget on like what you call human infrastructure, like health and welfare, education, medicine, stuff like that. America spends about 15%. So like you're just trying to help people out with childcare. Reasons people aren't having kids. We don't have enough kids in America, and you call it socialist for you. Just push ahead and do it, man. You should call you socialist no matter what. And as proof, I've mentioned a couple of times, but I saw this old news blurb floating around. And I'd mentioned before about how when Eisenhower tried to build interstates, they called him socialist. This is the guy who defeated the fucking Nazis, was an army general. Mannion blasts Ike's policies as socialistic. Clarence Mannion accused President Eisenhower today of pushing a drift towards social government, central government, which he once abhorred and feared as a danger to democratic government. He cited examples of the president's new highway program, which he termed a form of creeping socialism patterned after the Tennessee Valley Authority. Now, this is extremely funny for a couple of reasons. One, they tried to privatize the Tennessee Valley Authority a couple of years ago. Marsha Blackburn was horrifically against it because, and I quote, it would drive prices up. So I don't want to fucking know what to do about these people, man. They're just idiots.
Maybe this is just me like trying to be somewhat optimistic, but I'm almost like that shit about Eisenhower and the response he got from the far right or whatever back then is almost kind of makes me feel a little bit better in a way, because it's like they've always been doing this shit. Like we've said before, it's like, dude, you just know if fire departments didn't exist and they got pitched tomorrow, these lunatics would be like, that's some socialist bullshit or whatever. That's like a talking point that gets brought up a lot that I have always subscribed to. But like knowing that they were doing it even then, or like you've talked before about like when seatbelt laws, when that first became a thing. It's like they hated that then too, but in all those instances, eventually it didn't matter. The things happened, we got past it, they found another car to chase or whatever and bark at, and everybody moved on. So like hopefully that will happen here too eventually. We'll just push past it in spite of them and get where we need to be one day.
They'll move on to the next thing. And actually, like to be positive for a second, I saw this take today where somebody was like, the real takeaway from the current political moment is that the overwhelming majority of the Democratic Party is full on in for saving some sort of social democracy. And there's only a handful of morons standing in their way. Now, these happen to be a handful of very powerful morons like Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin. But for the most part, the parties in the National Party anyway is arrived at the right conclusion. A few fucking asshole holdouts and some pretty dark population trends that are really holding us back here.
So people are coming after Manchin and Sinema, demanding accountability or responses as to why they're holding this up and what it would take to get them there. Apparently, people like kayaked out to Joe Manchin's boat. The horror, he got accosted while on his fucking boat. And people met Sinema in the airport and were, asking her questions, asking her to just, illustrate what her stance actually is. Is it this you have a problem with? Is it elder care? Is it this? Is it this? And of course, she just wouldn't answer any of it and took refuge in a bathroom or whatever. So this shit has been happening, and Joe Biden was asked about it. And Matt, if you could play the Biden clip, that would be.
Mr. President, you're talking about how you have 48 Democratic votes right now. The other two have been pressured over the weekend by activists. Joe Manchin had people on kayaks show up to his boat to yell at him. Senator Sinema last night was chased into a restroom. Do you think that those tactics are crossing a line?
I don't think they're appropriate tactics, but it happens to everybody. From the only people it doesn't happen to are people who have Secret Service standing around them. So it's part of the process, yes.
I mean, first of all, she wasn't, we were off last week when this is a big deal, so apologize if we're coming back to something you guys are already over, but she wasn't chased into the bathroom. They tried to talk to her. She ran into a bathroom.
Right.
They were trying to talk to her. These are grassroots activists who canvassed for her, who did a lot of work to get her elected in a close election, who she's ghosted since she took office. And the context, she teaches a class at a college, is where they found her. She's a class on fundraising. She's teaching a class on how to deal with lobbyists, and she won't talk to her own fucking constituents.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, and they of course jumped all over Biden's response here too, be like, oh, that's just supposed to be normal people harassing them. But it's like they're offended at the idea that these people should, have to answer to their constituents and the people that voted them in. They're public servants. These are the people they represent, asking them for answers. They're not being held at fucking gunpoint or anything. It should be part of the process. The idea that anybody's supposed to be crying over the treatment that these poor senators are receiving on their fucking boats. It's just such horse shit.
Every United States senator and congressman should be required to spend a whole day a week in their home district in a fucking dunk tank. These are public servants. They work for us, and they fucking suck. They're not your god kings. You don't worship them. You treat them how being annoyed in public is something we all go through, and we're not paid off the public dole by taxpayer money. And those activists who were trying to talk to her about the girl was trying to talk to Sinema about her grandparents being deported, and Sinema's running away from her. They tried to meet at her office, but she's essentially shuttered all her district offices, and she doesn't go there anyway. So she's not doing her fucking job. That's why I pass the bills. You can explain to your constituents why you don't agree with them or whatever. But
yeah, you should have to. You should.
Yes.
You should be forced to explain that shit.
Yes.
Let alone not be sympathized with because you refuse to in public and act like you're being harassed and mistreated because someone has that expectation of you. Yeah, it's fucking stupid. All right. Well, let's move into the main segment. Do you want to sort of set it up a little bit before we bring Drew out here to discuss it?
Yeah. So ProPublica had a pretty infuriating long read the other day about this school district / county in Tennessee, where this one woman is basically an emperor of the child criminal justice system, and she's been locking up 50% of the kids that come in front of her as young as 7 fucking years old. And no amount of federal lawsuits apparently can make her change her ways. And Drew was mad about this. And if you don't know Drew, he's a former he's a lawyer by trade, used to be before he went into comedy full time. He was a public defender in Miami and Knoxville. And he's got a lot of anger about criminal justice issues. So we thought bringing him on to help us walk through this story. Bring in Drew, Matt.
All right.
Drew Morgan.
Yeah. Drew, friend of the show.
What's up, everybody? Friend of the show. Tour partner. Come see us. Well-read comedy tour. It'll be a lot funnier. Thank you.
I was going to ask you to plug that at the end, but we can still do that too. You're doing a hell of a job, my man, out here selling us. All right. So, yeah. Mark mentioned, so this is Rutherford County, Tennessee, the geographical center of Tennessee. It's where Murfreesboro is. And the statewide average for children who have like a juvenile court issue, the statewide average for how often they actually go to jail or lockup or juvie is 5%. And in Rutherford County, it's 48%. So, yes, nearly half of the time they're locking kids up. Most of whom, not all, but predominantly these are black kids. And again, when we say kids, we're not talking about 16-year-olds out graffitiing shit and stuff like that. Them too, but fucking 7, 8, 9-year-olds. And so pretty horrific, Drew. I don't know where you want to start, but just get into it.
Well, there's two things to look at here, which is this lady and the people she surrounds herself with. In other words, this case, which is pretty horrific. And I guess we should start there, and we will. And then the macro, which is how does this happen? How did it continue to happen in spite of numerous whistleblowers? And what else is going on in the world? Is this an anomaly? I do think she's probably one of the more egregious cases we've seen, but I don't think she's an anomaly, which is part of why I wanted why I asked to come on the show. Is I need people to understand that a lot of what's going on in our country right now, whether it be Republicans appointing judges, all the way down to people like this lady who failed the bar 4 times, but was appointed by a local politician. Republicans have done a great job recognizing and then utilizing the judicial system for what it is, which is a borderline democracy-proof entity of power. And it's extremely frustrating when I talk to my friends on the left, when both dyed-in-the-wool Democrats seemingly and people further left than that don't seem to understand how important this stuff is. It was my big thing the last election. I didn't love Joe Biden, but I was screaming at the top of my lungs that anybody that would listen to me, we have to stop Republicans from appointing judges. So we'll get into the macro. Let's get into the micro. So this lady, and I've forgotten her name, honestly.
Donna Scott Davenport.
Thank you. Miss Davenport, as I mentioned, had failed the bar 4 times, took her 9 years to pass it. She gets appointed in Rutherford County to be basically a magistrate in the juvenile detention places. A magistrate is somebody, usually what they'll do is, let's say arrest warrants are needed, and someone comes to a magistrate and they say, this is what happened, can I get an arrest warrant? And the magistrate will go, yes, someone broke the law. Or they'll go, they didn't quite break the law there. They do other stuff, but that particular duty will come to head in this case. She eventually becomes the appointed judge and head over the juvenile system when that is bifurcated off. I want to say in the late 90s, early 2000s.
It was August 2000. And she was actually elected, but she was her opponent was a major in the sheriff's department who was later charged with sex crimes against minors, the guy that was running against her for juvenile court judge.
Right.
And he got probation for that, by the way, ultimately. But anyway, so she won that election, and she hasn't been opposed since.
Trae, I just want to point out here, these are 7-year-olds being punished with jail time because this lady says people need to suffer consequences for their actions. Here's a guy that molested kids that got probation because he was a cop. This is the same fucking county judicial system.
Right.
So it drives me insane.
So what I guess trying to express is this lady's whole career started out because she was appointed by a friend of hers or whoever it was, which gives her the experience to run in the first place. I genuinely don't believe this lady wins that first election. I mean, she would have maybe against that guy, but she probably wouldn't even been a viable candidate had it not been for the fact that she gets appointed in spite of her failings as a human being inside the justice system. So she becomes a personality. She starts going on her own radio shows there locally. She starts doing all that stuff, and she's getting reelected on this campaign of, we've heard it before, law and order, tough on crime. There were examples in this article that came out of people thanking her publicly, elected politicians, thanking her publicly for, and I'm paraphrasing here, making kids wear belts in court and pull their pants up.
Yeah. She's real big into that whole thing. That's kind of her whole thing is like, she frames it as, raising these kids right or whatever, like they're wayward children that she is course correcting. That's how she looks at it. And that includes like, you got to pull your pants up. You got to wear a belt. You got to tuck your shirt in. And she's like, and she's always talking about how terrible it all is. She's like, and she's like, oh, it's worse now in Rutherford County than it's ever been. This scourge of unruly children, she means. And then she specifically is quoted as saying, my 9 and 10-year-olds, it's unbelievable. It's worse than, I'm seeing a lot of aggression from my 9 and 10-year-olds that she's putting in jail.
And when she says my 9 and 10-year-old, it's worth noting she calls herself the mother of the county. So she really thinks she's raising all these people's kids, even though she's taken away a lot of their fucking kids. There's a court case where she got overruled. Like she took away custody of someone's kids. A higher court overruled her. And when the case got sent back to her, she took the kids away again and urged the couple to finalize the adoption real quick to make it harder to take the kid back away. The judge eventually took the kid back away from the adopted parents and gave it back to the birth parents. What does that fucking do to a kid, man? What is this lady? This lady's so high on her own supply. She should be in fucking prison, man.
Listen, before we go back to Drew, just in the same vein of what we're talking about right now, says for cursing. So for cursing in her courtroom, she typically would sentence kids to 2 to 10 days in jail. About that, she was quoted saying, "Was I in violation? Heck yes. But am I going to allow a child to cuss anyone out? Heck no." So, when she's just in violation, she's talking about the state law and the United States Constitution, by the way. Right. So, but she knows better.
And a mandate that came down, I think, during the Obama administration era. She's also in violation of putting kids in solitary confinement. Solitary confinement, children. So the case that brought her to light. Let's run down that quickly. They arrested 10 kids for fighting. Now, when I say that, I don't mean 10 kids got into a fight. 2 kids were fighting. 1 kid was filming, which is where they got the tape or the quote-unquote evidence. And then there were kids sitting around watching. One of whom, who got arrested, was saying, "Stop, Tay, don't do that." In other words, was trying to stop the fight. They charged them under a statute of criminal responsibility. That was quite literally the charge against them. As quickly as I'll explain that the criminal responsibility statute is not a crime. It is not a crime to be criminally responsible. That statute is for, as an example, you don't shoplift from Walmart, but you force a 12-year-old to. You tell them you're going to beat them up or take them away from their dad, something really messed up like that. And then they go commit a theft because of you. You are criminally responsible, but you're criminally responsible for the theft that happened. So they didn't even charge them with being criminally responsible for fighting. These idiots. And the way it happened is that they decided through the filter system, which is something she created. Sorry, I'm looking at these notes and they're distracting me because I have ADD. I realize it's not even for me. I apologize, fellas. The filter system was a policy that she put in place at the juvenile detention facility where people would decide if kids needed jail time based upon basically a feeling. It just says whether or not they're I think it was true threat. Was that the phrasing used?
Yeah.
So essentially what this lady is running is a little fiefdom where whoever comes in front of her courtroom, she just decides if they're a bad kid or not. She also is on the record saying things like, "I have training so I know if someone's in a gang, even if it doesn't look like they are, by the way they wear their hat. I wonder if my blue hat would make that bitch think I'm fucking Crips or whatever, because I would like to shoot her."
So the thing about the filter system or whatever. So for anybody just joining us, we're talking about a case in mine and Drew's home state of Tennessee where this tyrannical juvenile court judge in Rutherford County has been locking up small children for years for very much so trumped up charges. But what you were just saying about the filter system, just so everybody knows, that's supposed to be very cut and dry, whether a kid actually goes into lockup or not. There are, of course, laws and statutes that dictate that, and it's supposed to be like wanted in connection to a very serious crime that resulted in injury or death, right? Or has already escaped from, custody. There's like a list of things that are supposed to qualify a kid for actually being locked up, and they're pretty severe because generally speaking, you want to avoid putting children in jail. But she didn't like all that. It wasn't good enough for her. So, yeah, she has her own system where any kid that is deemed a true threat by either her or I think also like the guards at the juvenile center or whatever, if they say, yeah, this kid's a true threat, then that to her is justification enough to lock
It's worth pointing out this juvenile detention facility got in a lot of trouble for horrific conditions. These kids weren't just be put in some hotel or something. Like there were a couple cases where the guard opened a cell and went in there and beat a kid with his belt. There was another one where this one's kind of funny. Well, it doesn't start off funny, but a guy pepper sprayed a kid in his cell through the bars, and the next time the kid got out, he caught up with the guard and beat the shit out of him, and the guard got fired when he figured out what had happened. So that part hit for me.
That's also my favorite part.
Yeah. But the particular, sorry, Drew, did I interrupt you?
No, go ahead.
Sorry. The particulars of this case that launched it are pretty. So to set this scene, this happened in 2016 in April. 3 cops showed up to arrest 4 kids on a warrant that apparently they got blanket approval, hadn't even been to the magistrate yet. 2 of the 3 cops, 2 of them happened to be black, and they really did not want to do this. One of the cops ended up crying. He put the 8-year-old girl in cuffs. Then ended up, when he's walking to the car, and took her cuffs off because he realized the fucked up thing he was doing and felt terrible about it. He'd also called his bosses and tried to beg them to call this off. But the ringleader was a gung-ho white cop who didn't even know what they were there for. He was just following orders type dude. The principal and vice principal are crying. One of the girls is diabetic. They did convince the cops to let her get her insulin shot from the school nurse before they dragged her off to jail. The kids' faces were blurred out using a filter in the video, so you couldn't even see. They were arresting the kids, and the word of the kid who's one kid whose face was visible was the kid who got beat up, who didn't want any of them arrested. So
it was also the whole list of kids that were to be arrested was a result of an investigation by this other cop. Her name's Crystal Templeton, who, yeah, like you said, you can't even see. She interviewed like one kid and her parent and put together a list of names of kids who were present at this fight, and those are the ones that ended up being arrested. Crystal Templeton, you'll be utterly shocked to hear, has a long history of suspensions and unsatisfactory job appraisals and things like that as a cop. Like she's had a lot of.
Let me run this down real quick. We talk again. These kids are suffering consequences. This is the woman who got them all arrested. She joined the Murfreesboro Police Department when she was 21. By the time the arrest of Hobgood, she had been disciplined at least 37 times, including 9 suspensions. She once left a loaded pistol in the seat of her patrol car. During her pursuit, she failed to turn on her dash cam. Another time, she lost control of her patrol car and hit a Ford Explorer, which in turn hit a Nissan Pathfinder, while Templeton's patrol car spinning smacked into a Toyota Sequoia. So she caused a 4-car pileup. 7 people were injured, including herself. Those 37s don't count the time she was suspended for this. She got 3 days paid leave for this. But don't worry, she's off the force now. Now she's a life coach and does multi-level marketing shit. So there you go. God damn these people, man. Fuck.
Right. So where do we start? And that's kind of what I was saying in the beginning about wanting to come on here is like, so I was a juvenile public defender for most of my short public defender career in Miami-Dade County. We had a judge who was very difficult. A lot of people don't realize this, but most time you go to trial with a juvenile, the judge is the jury by statute in most states that I'm aware of. We had a tough judge. We couldn't convince him of anything. I had a case one time where a cop shoved a kid on camera who had nothing to do with the case we were doing as he was walking down the hallway, just randomly, just knocked him against the wall, rounds the corner, Two kids are arguing. He runs up to them and then starts beating the fuck out of one of the kids. And then he claimed that kid, you couldn't see it on tape, Judge, but he slapped me first. And the judge just believed him. In spite of everything that we saw on the tape. I'm saying that, why is the cop there in the first place? And, that's in Miami-Dade. In this Rutherford County case, this principal, I felt bad for her. She started crying, et cetera, et cetera. But she does not have to let police into her building. There's no law that says that. If you don't have a felony arrest warrant, you just tell them no. But she didn't know that. She wasn't empowered. None of us in this country are. The reason we're not is we have eyes. And even though the Constitution says we can do certain things to stop this stuff, we don't feel it. That cop who cried didn't feel empowered in his own department. He's probably being ridiculed right now because this very fucking thing came out. The cop who got 1 day suspension for being so gung-ho and a yes man, I'm sure he's being lauded right now by his people. The lady who runs the detention facility, who is a good friend of the judge, I'm sure she's being privately lauded. None of them have been fired. The judge is still in place as far as I know, although I'm curious now that we have this national story if that'll be the situation or not. We have major problems in this country when it comes to the justice system, and almost, I would say 90% of them are tied to it being for profit now. I would say the other 10% are tied to our strange, probably goes back to our Christian roots, desire for law and order. Make them kids pull up their pants. A judge who throws kids in jail for cussing, that's what we need in this community, by God. That's fucked up. And I did the Southern accent, and I heard someone talking about the South having Stone Age law. It's not just the South. The worst case that's come out was out of Pennsylvania. It was a pay-for-play situation where judges were literally being paid to put kids into prison to fill the bed. Let me read you some outcomes from this article towards the end of it when they stopped talking about this specific case. Forced to stop gelling so many of its own children, Rutherford County ramped up its pitch to other places to jail theirs. They created a marketing video titled, "What Can the Rutherford County Juvenile Detention Center Do for You?" over saxophone music and a B-roll of children in black and white striped uniforms. Judge Davenport narrates. She talks about the size, the employees, its access. 39 counties now contract with Rutherford, according to reports published this year. So does the U.S. Marshals Service. How did Rutherford... Go ahead.
Sorry, but before we move on, we actually have the video. I want to show it real quick because the dystopian reality of it versus this marketing pitch is fucking hilarious. If you could play a little bit of it now, Matt.
Built in 2008, the Rutherford County Juvenile Detention Center is a 43,094 square foot facility that is located in the heart of Tennessee. Just minutes from Interstate 24 in Murfreesboro, the center is easily accessible with plenty of lodging and restaurant choices to choose from. There are also several major hospitals within a short driving distance as well. With its close proximity to I-24, you can also connect with Interstate 65 and Interstate 40 in less than 30 minutes via State Route 840 that...
The idea that we have a close proximity to hospitals for when we pepper spray and beat the shit out of the kids is so fucking dystopian. And you talk about the pay-for-play, the cash for kids scale in Pennsylvania. They essentially found a loophole here where this is perfectly legal because she's getting all her money from the taxpayers. This lady, the Davenport, the judge, makes $176,000 a year in Murfreesboro, and we were talking about her resume earlier in her political career. We didn't talk about how she lied in her fucking resume. None of her history lines up with any sort of public record. She says she was a campus cop when she was in college. That wasn't true. She also said she helped the FBI catch serial killers in a time when she was working in the fucking private sector. This would be funny if it wasn't ruining kids' lives.
Well, she's nuts. She's a narcissist and a psychopath, but we cannot get rid of narcissists and psychopaths. The question we have to ask ourselves going forward is how do we prevent them from becoming important people? And this isn't the 100% cure, But one way we got to do it is to stop putting profits over people. It's the classic example of why you can't privatize schools. They say because if you own a grocery store, you get a bad case of blueberries, you throw them away. You can't throw away quote unquote bad kids. That's why it should be public, not private. It's definitely the same thing when it comes to not just juveniles, but all prisons. Let me read you some more things that went down with this. This is right from the article. The Department of Children's Services licenses juvenile detention centers. When they went to basically not test, what's the word I'm looking for, examine this facility, some of the reports, there was very little graffiti, an inspector wrote in 2010. Neat and clean, the inspector wrote 2011, 2013, and 14. 2 inspection reports in 2016 said there were no concerns regarding the program or staff at the detention center. Now, eventually, 2017, Tennessee stops reporting it's juvenile what am I trying to say, the data about how many juveniles are held across the state. We stopped reporting it. Why are we doing that? Why don't we want people to know? Are we truly full of evil people who just want to throw kids away? I think there might be some of that, especially if they're black kids. But also, I'm telling you, it has to do with the money. It has to do with this. This is talking about the county commissioners of Rutherford County. The commissioners gave Davenport's budget request, it was a huge increase that she asked for, a favorable recommendation. Their vote was unanimous. During the meeting, one commissioner, Michael Rather, took a moment to express his admiration for the judge. I've said this for years. If we have a judge that has a box in the courtroom with belts in it that requires young people to put a belt on and hold their pants up in a courtroom, I'm all for it. Good job. Another quote by one of the commissioners laughed and said, well, I've lost it, but he said something about business being good because we're making profit.
Right. Yeah, because they were housing other counties' kids and stuff in their center. Yeah, he said, basically said, locking up little black boys is our business, and buddy, business is a booming. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that's pretty much what the guy said.
So she's a local radio personality who uses that platform to talk about how she's the county's mother and is tough on crime. She's getting $170,000 a year to put people in prison and make these places profits. And the county commissioners are going, well, this is great. Usually a jail costs money. It's actually making us money. This is wonderful, with no one looking at the effects that it's having on their actual constituents. I don't know how you fix that, but the profit is, the quest for the profit is definitely a big part of it.
Talking about nobody feels empowered. Like this passage, we rag on cops a lot, deservedly. But I wanted to read this because it's like the dehumanization system, like it applies to everybody. Check this out. The father, the guy named Miles, the guy who took the cuffs off the 8-year-old, his last name's Miles. Miles is exiting the jail after the 8-year-old turned out didn't get processed because she was arrested accidentally. She wasn't supposed to be brought in, so all she got was PTSD. So the father asked why this was happening. I don't know, Miles answered. We are good people, the father said. I can imagine what you're feeling, Miles answered. He explained briefly the juvenile court process. I'm sure that's helpful. This is wrong, the father told Miles over and over. After the third time, Miles, fighting back tears, said he understood as a parent himself the father's anger and pain. Fuck you, the father said. I understand, Miles answered. You can only ask people to turn off their humanity professionally so many times before it's just permanently fucking off. It's goddamn infuriating.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that cop has PTSD as well, and I have absolutely no sympathy for him. But I do think, on a personal level, you're touching on something that is really important here. I mean, you look at this woman, she's being lauded. She's been overturned numerous times. She's been told point blank. She's been reprimanded by the state bar. And that's where I'm going. These are the checks and balances we're supposed to have in place that are failing. This lady's being reprimanded, but she's being reelected. The county commissioners like her. Why? Because she's making everyone money. Now, you touched on earlier about how it's a loophole because it's technically legal. I'm not so sure, because numerous times she's put people in jail, kids, when by law, federal and state, she was not supposed to. And there are protections for judges when it comes to your official judicial capacity being protected. It's in a type of immunity, but there are exceptions to it. I genuinely think that this lady is guilty of wrongful imprisonment and or kidnapping. And not just because like I want that to be the case. It is hard for me to imagine, unless there's a particular statute that just keeps her immune, what her defense would be. If, in your capacity as a judge, you are allowed to jail kids only in these three circumstances, and quite literally thousands of times those circumstances weren't met, you on the radio in public said you knew that, but you didn't care because it's important to be firm. It's really hard for me to see why she's not being prosecuted right now. And I feel like if the prosecutor of Rutherford County had any fucking balls, he or she would do it.
Yeah, but they ain't going to though, dog. That's like that's like a cop telling on another cop, man.
Well, here's why I know they're not going to. The DA of Rutherford County probably loves her. The DA of Rutherford County is one of the worst DAs in the state of Tennessee. I only know this because our buddy Teets, who's a criminal lawyer out of Nashville, practices there. But that's how corrupt the system is, folks. And that's why, as I spent my career doing public defense, I became so, I guess the word that they use these days is radicalized. Our criminal justice system is only criminal. There is no justice. It's not just in the South. It's not just in conservative areas. It is a system that breaks people, like the cop that Mark was mentioning, like lawyers who tried to fight this lady and got nothing done, who took her all the way to the Supreme Court, got her reprimanded, and nothing happened. It breaks people down.
Something that happened, I forget what he's doing. Like this lady, they took this case to the district attorney before they arrested these kids. The ADA told them there's no fucking case here, and they still went and arrested them anyway. There's just no one, unless you're going to take a gun and go down there and physically stop her, no one can stop this lady from locking up kids. It's like her one purpose in life.
Which is why somebody needs to stand up to her, who's official, but I don't think that they will.
On this very hopeful note, let's get Drew out of here. Drew, thanks for coming on and illuminating all this for us, and also tell the people, how they can follow you, find you, whatever, all that good stuff.
I'm at Drew Moore Comedy on all social media. It's sometimes funnier than I was today. I tour with Trae and our buddy Corey, the Buttercream Dream, on the Well Read Comedy Tour. You can go there for tickets. We have a great show, a great live show. And man, I just want people, there's two things, the environment and the criminal justice system, where I'm like, guys, it's the whole damn system. It's not, I'm going to vote blue, but like, it's not just voting blue. We've got to look at it and overhaul the whole thing. And cases like this, I'm really, really, really hate saying this. They're going to get more and more common, or less, because we've killed the press. But more people like her exist than any of us want to process and accept. It is horrific, and we're actually lucky when we arrest like those two judges in Pennsylvania. One of them just got out, and I think somebody should shoot him.
All right. Thank you,
Not official recommendation from the evening Skews.
As your lawyer, everyone, I legally recommend that we make it legal to kill that man, and then we do it. Because I would never, ever say you should break the law. Then I might be held criminally responsible when you do it. But if we change the laws to say legal, then we could kill that guy, and we should do that.
Yeah.
All right. Drew Morgan, everybody. Appreciate it.
That's why he's our Better Call Saul.
That's right. Senior legal correspondent. Thank you, Drew. Okay. All right. We're going to hit some comments and stuff over here. I'm getting conditioned now when I look at the comments to remember to say, hit that like button and smash subscribe and hit like and all that computer internet stuff that I'm supposed to tell y'all to do. Do that because it helps us out as I understand it. So, yeah, thank you all for doing that. I'm going to look through. Matt, you can put up some comments if you see them because I'm just now trying to get through some over here.
As we do that, because yesterday was Columbus Day, an annual argument about Christopher Columbus that happens online was extremely stupid yesterday, including our boy Josh Mandel saying that Christopher Columbus was an American hero, which is funny because he was an Italian who sailed for Spain and never set foot in America, but whatever.
But it's also, again, to these people, Jesus is an American hero,
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus, the first American. Everybody knows that. So yeah, it's so wild to me. You will never be able to convince me that any of those people give a single shit about Columbus or Columbus Day, dude. It's just like a thing that they, you got some marginalized people wanting something, and they can't have that. But also, it's just like, I'm supposed to be on this side of this thing, and so they act like they give a shit. They don't. Nobody gives a fuck about Christopher Columbus, dude, or his day.
Yeah, the Sopranos episode on it is pretty much the call it Chris is pretty much the only thing worth the final word on the matter.
Right.
Jim
Gray says Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Yes. Jim,
yeah.
We are.
Which is like Joe Biden signed a proclamation about that, and everyone got mad. But Christopher Columbus Day has been Indigenous Peoples Day in South Dakota for like 30 years, I think, because they have a lot of large Native American population, and no one ever got mad about it. But also, like me and you talked about it yesterday. Amerigo Vespucci is right there. Like, the whole country's named after him. He's another Italian American hero. By the way, he's the cartographer, of course, who like drew the outlines of the South American coast, and that's why they named it after him. He quickly realized that he wasn't in Asia, and that was in 1501, so only a decade after Columbus. He was way smarter than Christopher. He never killed anybody, never raped anybody, never enslaved anybody. So build a statue of him if you want, if you need to replace the great Italian. But yesterday I learned I'd never known the origins of Columbus Day, which is really funny to me. So in 1892, it was the 400th year anniversary of Columbus landing in Hispaniola and in the Caribbean. And he so what had happened around that time is a couple of Italians were accused of killing a cop in New Orleans. Some good old boys, as they're prone to do, got hyped up on racism. They went down to the courthouse and lynched 8 Italians. I think they shot 6 and hung 2. So there was a big internet. Teddy Roosevelt said, "That's awesome. We should kill all Italians." Italy got mad. Italy got mad about it. So Benjamin Harrison, to try to calm shit down and to pander for Italian American votes, issued a national proclamation, the 400th anniversary of Columbus Day, the Columbus landing in the world, that we would have a national day of celebration for Christopher Columbus. Harrison lost the next election anyway. Anyway, everyone forgot about it. We made a national holiday it was a federal holiday in 1971, I think. So
it was like an olive branch, an olive oil branch, if you will, that we were offering the Italians. Okay.
Yeah, it's just a very, very, very American that, like, so Teddy Roosevelt is horrifically racist against Italians. We put up a statue of him in South Dakota to make up for him being racist against Italians. We put up statues of a racist Italian. That was our compromise.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, just got to even out the racist. As long as we have an equal number of separate racists represented by statues, then, we can keep on America. And Carla Barrick says, "I'm an American Indian, thus Columbus can kiss my brown ass, and we have to share the day with him." Yeah, but, maybe one of these days they'll just fully take it away.
We talked about it last year, I think, after Columbus Day, but I get mad about it every year because so many people seem to think that Christopher Columbus proved the world was round, and it drives me fucking insane. Everyone knew the world was round in 1492. Aristophanes, whatever the dude's name is, BC calculated the circumference of the Earth within 5 kilometers. Aristotle knew the world was Earth was round. Sailors who had to navigate a curved Earth in 3 dimensions by stars, which moved because the Earth was rotating, knew the Earth was round. If not because of that, because when they're sailing, they saw another ship, the first thing they would see was sails coming up over the fucking horizon. That's why they put the flag at the top of the mast. So the first thing you'd see was whether you were coming up on an enemy or a friend. They knew the Earth was round. Columbus thought the Earth was small. He was a fucking idiot. He got lost. He almost died. The only good character quality that is involved in this is a morally neutral one, which is brave. He was bravely stupid, and therefore he got to be the first one here, if you don't count the Native Americans and the Vikings. So.
Right, yeah. So you just don't count them. Yeah. Stephanie Seaton says, "Drew trying to legislate his way into the purge." Yes, he is. He would love nothing more. Big good old purge. He's a purgy type bitch. He is. He wants to burn it all down.
Combine the purge with the terror in France, and you got that's pretty much Drew's night dream scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Guillotines, baby.
All right, guillotines, baby. Okay, remember, you can go to weeklyskews.com and get you a shirt if you're so inclined. You can also go to wellreadcomedy.com and get you tickets to see me if you're vaccinated and are so inclined. I believe that'll do it for this week's edition. We will be back next Tuesday night right here on the Skews. See you.